so actually we should proceed to the group discussion. However, because no camera right now, so let me start from this, and later the second class, then we can start the group discussion. Okay, so the section here we want to discuss web and HTTP. Before I continue, here I still want to make sure, can you see the caption? 字幕. Can you see it? Caption? Okay, so here I don't have the caption, but at least I find the function caption. So I provide you this function if you can enable the setting of caption. And then I think you can refer to the caption, and so that you can listen to me properly. All right, so this is the actual function, caption on Teams. If you can enable that one, I think it's good for you. All right, web and HTTP, maybe you think it's really simple. Well, even it's really simple, later we still want to emphasize some important concept to you regarding web and HTTP. Well, later, of course, we want to have this, and we will treat each page to be a collection of objects. All right, so even it's a file, so we still can treat that file as an object. So web page consists of objects. Well, here object can be file. So HTTP index file, image file, Java applet, audio file, etc. All of these can be treated as the objects. So that's why we can call a web page consists of objects. And we have HTML file, it's index file. And here we call it the base HTML file. So we can have this, or simply we can call it the base file. All right, so in the question perhaps we simply call it the base file. And this is the first file, and then within the first file we can have the index or reference objects. Okay, so this is the terminology later we will use using objects, and we have the base file, and base file can refer to several objects. Well, because it is a file, so each file or each object is addressable by an URL. All right, so URL actually is this one. So we have the host name, then we can have the proper path. So host name plus the path name, so that we can have the URL. Up to now, I think all of these, I think you can understand. However, I just want to emphasize later we will call. We have the index of base file, and the index of base file can refer to several objects. All right, so here we have these. Well, talking about web, so we need to have the application layer protocol, and the HTTP actually is the protocol, and it's called a hypertext transfer protocol. So we have the initial HTTP. All right, so HTTP it's a protocol. And this protocol used for the web page. Well, so of course it's the web's application layer protocol. And of course you understand if we have a web, and actually we have a client-server model. For client, of course, this client is a browser. Browser will request, and so they can receive the web page to display web objects. And server actually can send these objects to the client, and so that the client can see the content by using these objects. All right, so here we try to emphasize objects, and so that we avoid mentioning files. Well, we have a request and so the response, and here we have the server. And of course, the other client can do the same thing. So we have the other HTTP request and the response. Here we emphasize the server provide the same content of the web. So of course, we have the server actually located at the same location. Well, for HTTP, previously, we don't know why we choose HTTP to use TCP, because TCP actually will have the take care of the data integrity. So you can use this one to serve as a reason. So we should use TCP. If we use TCP, then we will have the port number 80 for the server. All right, so previously I didn't know if we have 80 for the server. What is the port number for the client? Actually, the port number determined by OS for the client. So actually we can call it X. So 80 for server and the X by OS to the client. All right, so this one I think I didn't know previously. All right, so we use TCP, and TCP, of course, will have the suitable way to have the circuit programming, but the circuit programming need to be addressable. So how to have the possible way to address the, to identify the connection. We will have a port number. Of course, we will have the address, and also we'll have the port number. And port number 80 associated with the server, and the X unknown, but determined by the OS associated with the client. All right, so use TCP, client can initiate the connection, and of course the server accept TCP connection. Do you think the server will reject? Nobody knows, because provide the server, so of course welcome to connect. So of course server accept TCP connection. Well, once accept, and then you can understand we will have the messages exchange. And previously we have a request and response, and the two types of message exchange. Once finished, so finally TCP connection will be closed. All right, so if you don't want to check the web page anymore, and then the connection can be closed. Well, this is the simple description about the HTTP using TCP connection. And later we can look at this stat list. Stat list means is it necessary for the server to maintain any information about the clients? Here it says no, because of no information about the past client request. So we call HTTP is a stateless protocol. That says it is not necessary for the server to maintain information, and so that we can call this type of a protocol stateless protocol. If you don't think so, you want to have a protocol need to keep the information, then we can call it stateful. So stateful or stateless protocol. Of course, here HTTP is designed by using stateless, so that we have the stateless protocol. Well, if we want to maintain state, and then we will have a stateful protocol. And stateful protocol says protocol maintain state, and maintain states actually it's complicated. So protocols that maintain state are complex. We don't want to do so, so that's why HTTP is simply a stateless protocol. All right, so if we want to maintain, then should be maintained. However, how about client-server crashes? If we have client-server crashes, and then you need to have some other way to have the consistent information rather than inconsistent information. Because of this, so we don't think Stafford protocol suitable for HTTP. Why? If we want to maintain information about clients, how many clients? In fact, we have a lot of clients possibly. So a lot of client possibly, it's a heavy burden for the server. So that's why we don't want to choose Stafford protocol to be associated with HTTP. That's why finally HTTP is stateless. All right, so this is the overview about HTTP. Well, after now, other things will be okay for you, but later we have the further discussion. So that's why we don't have the term overview on the page here. And we gotta know HTTP can have the two different way of connection. The first one called non-persistent, and the second one called persistent. We may have the connection with non-persistent HTTP or persistent HTTP. What that means, persistent. Persistent here. Even for me, I have the hyperlink, and this time, maybe let me try this one for you. Let me try it. All right, so actually I use Cambridge Dictionary. So of course, if you want to check further, you can check it. And persistent, I choose this one. Lasting for a long time or difficult to get rid of. All right, so lasting for a long time. Actually, we use these. So that's why we have the Chinese character for the first one. So that's why we have these. All right. Okay, so if we know the meaning for persistent, and maybe you have some idea what it means, persistent, but still we will illustrate the operation of persistent HTTP or non-persistent HTTP later by using the example of the calculation about the response time. All right, before we have the example to ask you to check how to have the response time if we employ a non-persistent HTTP or we have the persistent HTTP. Well, first of all, non-persistent HTTP, it says at most one object. All right, at most one object over the TCP connection. At most one. All right, so first of all, at most one. If we have the connection at most one object, that says perhaps you don't have any message exchange, so of course zero object. But if you want to have the file exchange, only one file, and actually only one object is exchanged over the TCP connection. Once finished, then the connection is closed. Well, how about downloading multiple objects? If you want to download multiple objects, then it asks you to have connection again and connection again, and so that you have multiple connections. Multiple connection to have all the files. And as for persistent HTTP, then consider the same situation if you have multiple objects. Normally we have multiple objects. So So if we want to download multiple objects, what happens? Actually, you need to have a single connection. Single connection only, maybe not always single connection. Perhaps you have at least 2 connections. Later, I can let you know if we consider initially we have the index file, and later we want to download the object reference. So at least you need to have the first connection, and then you will have the second connection to download the reference objects. So how to do? Later we can illustrate the difference between non-persistent HTTP and persistent HTTP using some example by calculating the response time, and so they will understand how to have the operations of the non-persistent HTTP and persistent HTTP.